Hello guys and welcome to INRacing Time Attack Challenge. My name is Suellio, the professional racing driver and coach and also creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. This week we head into the second time attack at the Bahrain International Circuit with the Formula 1 car. We're gonna see the entire lap and then we're gonna compare corner by corner. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is track limits on entry. Having the car on the right place on entry determines everything else on the corner. So if you have the car on the wrong place on entry, it's impossible to have a perfect mid corner and it's impossible to have a perfect exit too. So let's go to the first corner to show something here. Actually, you would think that, okay, actually we want to brake on top of the curb, and this will actually happen in other corners. But this one is an exception because this curb is lower than the track itself, and if you try to brake on top of the curb, it will actually bottom out the car, and you're gonna lock up the fronts and the rears. You're just not gonna have the efficiency in comparison to braking on the white line. So for this corner, we want to brake on the white line. But if we go to the other corners here, you can already see how we're bringing the car all the way to the outside, which is the very, very limit before we get our laps invalidated. And then we use all of that curve under braking. Here it is, exactly what I mentioned. Here we have the antenna on the very limit, the right edge of the curb. If you go more than that, just a little bit, you actually get a penalty and invalidate your lap. So you really want to bring the car to this much so you can really max out the entry positioning and use as much track as possible for carrying more speed. And then for the next corner, exactly the same thing. Here you can see that we didn't use all the way. I think there's a little bit more room to use just a little bit more because you really want to carry as much speed as possible on the apex anyways. So, and here, again, same thing, antenna on the white line. You can see that thinking in advance, before you go to that corner, you already have to have that in your mind. I am going to use all the track on entry. All the track on entry is much more important than mid-corner and exit. Of course, mid-corner and exit is also going to be important, but it only works if you nail the entry first. So you nail the entry and then you start worrying about nailing the apex and the exits. And here again, we have the same thing, antenna on the white line right before we start braking. And there you go. That is it for entries. So that is the first thing I want you guys to think about. Second thing I want to think about is the speed of downshifting on entry versus the short shifting on exit. So on entry, we want the car to rotate a lot. We're going to downshift very aggressively as we brake. But on exit, there's just too much power for this car. So what we're going to do is we're going to short shift. So we're going to upshift very early. The RPM of the car is going to go low. You're going to hear the engine like, brrr. That's because this way you have a lot more control of the exit power delivery. So you can move your feet a little bit more because you're going to have less power to play with and it's going to be safer. And actually, because it's safer, there's less wheel spin and you get better traction. You can go exit off the corner quicker. So under braking, very quickly downshift. Doom, 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 doom. You can see that. So listen to the engine on downshifting. You see lots of downshifting, high RPM. You can hear the engine. Doom, 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 doom. But now, right before accelerating, listen to the engine. So we short shifted very early from second to third at the moment we started accelerating. You don't want to accelerate on second gear here. You want to accelerate on third because that's where you have a little bit more control of the speed without having wheel spin. Very aggressive downshifting. And then early short shifting. Same thing, exactly the same thing for extra control on the exits. So you can pretty much do this on almost all corners. There you go. Exactly the same thing, the same pattern, downshifting very aggressively and upshifting very early for more speed control. So follow these 3 tips. Positioning angle on entry, downshifting very aggressively on entry so you can make the car rotate more with the engine braking, and short shifting, upshifting early so you can have better control of the traction on exit, and you will find lots and lots of performance in lap times. So that's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next week. Bye!